All right. So kind of changing from, I guess, like the training structure and looking at sort of more from like a technical perspective. What are some
Mhm.
of the cues that you have found have sort of really resonated and, or I guess like when you're sprinting, what are you thinking about? Are you thinking about anything?
Ooh. Well, there's two answers. If
Okay.
I'm thinking about something, it's not good.
Okay.
But yeah, there's um I'm really I need a lot of concepts in my head to understand cues and to understand the movement itself. So in my head, there's a lot going on when I'm sprinting, but it's not always the best thing as a sprinter because you hear it a lot. If you're thinking, it's already too late. You already lost time.
Mhm.
And I remember the first time I broke 11 seconds, I was running against Shelly Ann.
Right.
And I was already so excited being next to her. And Laurent told me before that, he just said, so it was in Tokyo, was the heats. Laurent said, you just go and you run your PB. I don't care. Just run as hard as you can. I was like, okay, okay, okay. And I'm next to Shelly. And so I was like, it's the Olympics. I was just a ball of energy. And then I remember, and at some point I was like, I'm next to her. I'm next to her. I'm next to what's going on. And then I was like, keep running. It was really something weird going on. But I think that this really helped me because I felt how relaxed she was. This I heard about this before, but I never experienced it. That two sprinters, when they're next to each other, they're going to go eventually in sync.
Yeah.
And it sometimes it can be challenging because if it's not your running pattern, it can throw you off your race. So I think I experienced this with Shelly Ann. I went in sync with her and I was really relaxed because she doesn't have to push in heats.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I was like, okay. And then I was like, no, but I have to put frequency now. And then I put frequency. We go on the line with dip. I see what she ran. I was like, I think I ran 11. I did break 11 seconds. And I was like, what's going on? And then I saw 1091 on the board and I didn't understand anything. So there's all of this going on in my head.
Yeah. Okay. And so if you're training, are there things that you're thinking about? Because I think that it's the way that I probably look at it, and this might be very wrong, but is that you probably need to think about some things in training so that by the time it's become so automatic, so drilled, so that by the time you go into a competition, and especially a big competition, A, you're racing Shelley Ann Fraser Price, B, it's the Olympics, so that you can just kind of be instinctive about it and just kind of let autopilot
Yeah,
take over. So are there things that you
yeah,
kind of like work on in training and things that you find that a cue that you think, okay, this really is really
yeah.
meaningful for me. This is really helpful for me.
There's been two that I can think of. So we think a lot that we run just with our legs, right? So when you're thinking I have to put frequency, you're thinking about putting frequency with your legs. But this can also lead you to just throw off a little bit the rhythm that you have in your legs. And then someone once told me, don't focus on your legs, focus on your elbow. Your elbow has to go as fast as possible, back and forth. And this is automatically going to make your legs go faster because you're also running with your arms. And I saw that this really resonated with me and it really helped in increasing my frequency, especially for the last part of the sprint. But for the first part, I always struggled a little bit to put the starting phase, like the start and the drive phase together.
Okay.
And I was not understanding how to do it. So I was just starting and then straightforward, like I was putting up my head and I was sprinting again. It was not really this nice drive that you need to have, and then just this nice progression with the angles. And then I was working with my sports psychologist, and he said, let's try to find a concept that might help you to do this. And actually, do you know, like in the Looney Tunes, in the cartoons, when they are running, when they're starting to run, they're rolling up the street or just
Yeah.
the floor. This really helped me. I really had to think I had to do the same. So
Okay.
this is what I mean. You have the movement that I need to have with the elbow, for example, but I also have to have a concept in my head.
Yeah, okay, that's really interesting, and I think it's fascinating, like how different athletes can sort of they get I guess sort of like a similar idea communicated to them using a different metaphor or whatever, or a
Yeah.
different example, and how, you know, like something very different can click with one athlete to what clicks with another athlete. I think that's fascinating. I think
Yeah.
that's a really cool story. Okay,
Yeah.
and then and and at what point did in your career, sorry, in what year was it where you felt like that clicked? The reason I ask is because obviously, kind of, you're talking about sort of transitioning from early acceleration effectively
Mhm.
to your upright running. And I think we could all say that the European indoors in 2021, you did a very good job of that. Did that kind of
Mhm.
coincide with around the time that you sort of pieced it all together, or?
Yeah, I think it would be between mm, the summer of 2020 and then the whole winter of 2021 was really crucial for me for this. It's still not perfect. I still have to work a lot on my start and on my transition, but it was definitely a big step forward for me. And then we were trying to work on this first 3 steps the whole winter in 2021. We were trying to get them like pam, 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 one after the other. And I was struggling. I was not always hitting the first step right, and that would make me lose time. And then exactly what you said earlier, I just went with my instincts in the final in Torun, and then it worked. So it was already somewhere, but it just never quite worked as we
Right.
hoped for. Yeah.
Yeah, so you just kind of, that was the opportunity to sort of express what was already in place,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right, fantastic. Um, I was going to ask you what your favorite track session was and your least favorite track session, but I feel like we've kind of already touched on that. So, and the impression that I got was that you like stuff where it's fairly short and fast, and you don't like stuff where it's long and slow and there's not a lot of recovery. Is that a fair?
I'm not sure actually. If I
Okay.
have to say it differently, I really like a speed endurance session that we do. It's 60, 80, 100, 120. That's my absolute favorite one. Every time that I see it on the program, and Laurent also knows when to put it because he knows I need it at some point.
Okay.
Um,
What's the
uh,
recovery in that session? How much time do you have between the runs in
I
that?
would say it's 8, 10, and 12.
Okay.
Yeah. So that for me, it's for sure my favorite one. And I'm still trying, but weightlifting, it's really not my thing.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Have you been? At what age did you start lifting?
Yeah, 19.
Okay. All right. And are there any kind of? Do you have a favorite lift, or do you just like not like it at all?
Yeah, I was with my physio just earlier in the gym, and we were talking about this, and I said I maybe like the press because I don't have to carry any weights around. It's just like that. I don't have the feeling I'm putting a lot of things on my back. So maybe
Yeah.
just that one where you just have
The
to
bench
press.
press.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I think that it's interesting that you mentioned about putting weights on your back and on your shoulders. I definitely, if somebody says to me that they find that uncomfortable, then I can definitely sort of appreciate where they're coming from. It's probably something that's not for everyone. Um, and do you have like a running workout where you see it on the piece of paper and you're like, oh no, not that. I don't want to. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, this really goes back to what we said earlier. You were right about this. It's mainly if I see 300s in with 1 minute rest, I'm not gonna be happy. But then you also have this specific endurance that you see it, you know it's going to be painful, but it's still not making the same effect on me because I know I'm going to be lactic,
Mhm.
but it's still fun to do because it's still fast. And
Okay.
when I'm doing 300 slow, I'm just like, this is too long. When is this over? And then,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Okay. Cool. Um, and then I guess one of the last things I wanted to touch on is
Yeah.
that, and you sort of spoke a little bit about this because with regards to your studies and other athletes that are maybe once they're back from training they're able to recover, but you've kind of have to obviously give a little bit of your energy to your studies. So what are you doing to enhance your recovery, and sort of how closely do you monitor things like your sleep, your nutrition, in order to make sure that you're ready for training the next day?
We're monitoring sleep, HRV, rest heart rate, respiratory rate on a daily basis. I mix them. This we always do throughout the whole season, just to see how recovery is going. And actually, it's also seeing how my HRV dropped, that I then saw that I had COVID last year in April. Because I saw it and was like, this is not possible. I think something's wrong. So this we work with a lot. And then I try to see a physio 2 times a week. They're always on the track if we need something, but just for treatment. And then I would love to do a little bit more of massage, but I didn't do it as much as I should, to be honest. But yeah, I really noticed also going to university that when I was sleeping less the first year of university, because I didn't study enough during the semester, that's the first time I got injured in my career before this year. And then I said, okay, I was not sleeping enough. I have to really be careful about this. So this, I'm really trying to improve my sleeping schedules and habits. But for nutrition, as I mentioned before, I come from a sporting family, and my mom is a doctor. So we always had a really, really healthy diet at home. And I didn't really have to learn too much as an athlete on what my needs were on carbs, proteins, etc. So that was I was really lucky.
Yeah. Okay. So you kind of, the habits were just already ingrained, and it was sort of like, I guess, like an organic sort of natural education with it, just through growing up, rather than, okay, I'm an athlete now, I better figure out how I need to fuel my body. Okay. All right. Very interesting. Thank you. And one thing I meant to ask you this at the time, but I forgot. So one of the first questions, we were speaking about your recovery from your surgery, and you said that, I think you mentioned you were doing step ups and you had to kind of hold back a little bit because you felt a little something. How good are you at that? Like, do you find it easy to sort of to hold yourself back, or do you sort of want to try and sort of push through?
I'm terrible.
Okay.
I really had to learn. But that's why 2022, even though it was not a good year for me performance wise, and also I was not healthy throughout the whole year. I had 2 injuries, but I really learned. I have a really high pain level. Like I have to have it really high before I realize I'm in pain. So I had to learn, I'm feeling something, and I'm not thinking I'm feeling something. I'm actually feeling something. So I should step back a little bit and not push through, because that's what I kept doing with my first injury this year. And it just made things harder for me, because until now I was always healthy and I could always just keep going. And now I'm 26. I'm not young anymore in the sprinters. So you have to learn also these kind of things. We also saw Shelly-Ann didn't run in Lausanne because she felt something in her hamstring. So you have to learn to listen to your body if you want to be making the right decision for the rest of your season. And this is something I had to learn, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's really cool and very interesting. I think that it's quite easy to sort of attribute that, the more work I do, the better the results I'm going to get. And I don't necessarily think that's always the case. Like you say, you kind of got to be in tune with things and knowing when to switch off. And I've mentioned this on another podcast, that I think that sometimes the role of the coach is to be able to say, okay, you've done enough now, stop, rather than necessarily being right, okay, get up and do your last run. It's actually kind of knowing when to hold them back. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
All right, Ajla. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and chatting to us. where can any listeners find you on social media?
First of all, thank you for giving me the platform with you. And yeah, I'm mainly on Instagram. I think my generation is up there. Sometimes on Twitter, but definitely not on TikTok.
Okay. Are you all right to share your handle for Instagram? Your
Uh,
as in your name. So if they would type it in, where they can find you.
oh, it's Ailetta. So it's Ajletta.
Okay. All right. Fantastic.